Hello everyone, welcome to Just Giji. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to grow and care for orchids. Orchids are usually grouped into two broad categories that characterize their growth habits: monopodial orchids and symbodial orchids. These beauties comprise the largest family of flowering plants on earth with over 30,000 different species. The reason for this diversity lies in the orchid's amazing ability to adapt to its given environment. With so many different orchid varieties that thrive in so many different growing conditions, it is relatively easy to find an orchid that is well suited to the conditions that you can provide, whether it is a kitchen window or a full-size greenhouse. According to most gardening sources, the easiest orchids to grow indoors are Phalaenopsis orchids, also known as Moth Orchids. They belong to the Monopodial orchids. They are considered beginner-friendly and can thrive with moderate light and regular watering, producing beautiful long-lasting flowers. So in this video, I'll be sharing how to grow and care for Phalaenopsis or moth orchids. Visit justgigi.com for more information about the types of orchids and their growth habits. I have listed the names and pictures and orchids' pests and diseases and other information on my website, so please visit justgigi.com. Let's talk about the best growing conditions for orchids. With 30,000 different species of orchids, it is impossible to give a general care instructions. However, I can provide clues to its preferences for light, water, and growing medium. Most tropical orchids grow in the air rather than in soil. Their fleshy roots are covered with a layer of white cells called velamen, which acts as a sponge to absorb water. The coating also protects the roots from heat and moisture loss. So for those orchids that like a lot of airflow and want to dry quickly, use a coarse mix. Coarse mix is important for orchids because it provides excellent drainage, allowing their roots to breathe and preventing them from sitting in soggy oil, which can lead to root rot. Essentially, the large particle size in a coarse mix ensure proper air circulation around the roots for healthy orchid growth. So don't use soil for orchid, use coarse mix. You could use any coarse mix. I use Miracle Grow Coarse Blend and I highly recommend it. Okay, let's talk about light. Orchids are light-hungry plants. Most of them have very high light requirements. Direct sunlight is not an orchid's best friend. It can cause sunburn that discolors the leaves. Orchids are tropical plants that need to have a warm environment to thrive. For best results, they should get 12 to 14 hours of light each day year-round. In a tropical environment, the duration and intensity of natural light does not vary as it does in temperature climates. For this reason, you may need to move your orchids around and supplement with artificial light to keep them happy during the winter months. South and east facing windows are usually the best spot for orchids. West windows can be too hot and northern ones are usually too dark. If you don't have a good window location for your orchids, they will be perfectly happy growing under grow lights. Okay, let's talk about watering. Most orchids can tolerate drought far better than they can tolerate excess moisture. Nothing kills an orchid faster than letting it sit on waterlogged pot. Without adequate air circulation, the plant will suffocate and die. As a very general rule, orchids should be watered once a week. The growing medium should be allowed to dry out between waterings and excess water should not come in contact with the roots or the growing medium. After being repotted, most orchids will not resume active growth for several months. Water very sparingly during this adjustment period. There are many misunderstandings about the watering process. I water these once a week and then I usually give 3 to 6 ice cubes a week. Some people say ice cube will shock the root and then it will die. That's not true. This plant's surviving for last 12 years and then I give this plant like 3 to 6. It depends on how dry the root is. I usually look at it and then before I give ice cubes. And it is also depend on how big the plant is. So for example, this plant I usually give 6 ice cubes a week and then I have other plants smaller than this. I only give 3 ice cubes a week. For example, this one could survive with 3 ice cubes a week, but this one is a little bigger And some of these other ones are also a little bigger, so they need about 6 ice cubes a week. There are a lot of misinformation about ice cubes can kill tropical plants, but with orchid that's not the case. So you could water them with ice cubes once a week only. Don't give excess of water, that will kill the plant. And those are the basic watering rules. And watering is very important for a healthy orchid growth. It's most important, the light and watering is very important, more than fertilizing. So let's talk about fertilizer. I use Miracle-Gro Orchid Plant Food Mist. Do not spray on flowers because the flowers will fall off. So this one you could spray every 2 weeks, while I usually do like right after I feed them with ice cubes. Before you spray it, make sure the leaves are clean. Look at this leaf for an example. Lots of dust. Because these leaves collect a lot of dust. So make sure you clean the leaves before you spray it. Let's talk about how to get orchids to rebloom. Place your plant in a spot that receives bright but indirect light and complete darkness at night. And keep your plant at a standard room temperature of between 65 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Rotate your orchid throughout the growing cycle so it receives light where it needs it most. Maintain regular care. During the growing and flowering season, maintain consistent watering and feeding, and your orchid will rebloom within no time. So another thing about blooming. So if you see the flowering stems are dead like this, if it's brown, you should cut them. If it's green like this, the stem is alive, you can cut it back to the first visible green growth. And then sometimes the new bloom comes from the old ones. Sometimes, once in a while it happens. It's happened to me a few times. So I leave it until it's turned brown like this. Then I cut them off. These are some tips to help your orchid rebloom. Orchids should be repotted when crowded roots push up and out of the pot. Orchids are usually happy in a relatively small pot. Some orchids needs to be repotted every year. Others may be happy in the same pot for years, like this one I mentioned. This one is like been in this pot for several years. I don't even remember when it's the last time I repotted it. But as a general rule, don't repot your orchid unless it's really necessary. But make sure when you repot it, you cut all these dead roots and cut the roots just above where they are dead, leaving a little bit of dead on the root to avoid creating an open wound. As I mentioned earlier, I use coarse mix for all my orchids. Coarse mix is important for orchids because it provides excellent drainage, allowing their roots to breathe, so keep that in mind when repotting. Let's talk about my orchids here. Okay, so shout out to this orchid here. This is 12 years old. Would you believe it? 12 years old. This one always giving me flowers, always bloom. It's beautiful. And they last 4 to 6 months. And by looking at this, I could tell this might last up to 6 months because this is already 3 months old and the new flower buds are still growing. This is like I rescued this plant from one of the stores 2 years ago, and then this one was like basically dying. So I bought it and then took it home, repotted it, cared for it, and here it is on its 3rd bloom. And it's thriving very well. These flowers also last like 4 to 6 months. It's beautiful. I love it. This one is a double spike blooming orchid. I will show you the picture from the last bloom. And new spikes are growing. This is also long-lasting flowers. Here is the second one out of the double spike. This one is actually a yellow colored flowers, and then here is a picture from its last bloom. Beautiful yellow flowers, and it is also reblooming. This one is very bright pink, and I will show you the picture of that from the last bloom. There is a new bud coming out of this one too. And this is a dark maroon one. Here is the picture of its last bloom. And a new flower spike is also growing on this one. Here's another yellow orchid that I have, and here is the picture from its last bloom. And a new flower spike is growing from this one also. This is also a long lasting flower, so it will last like 4 to 6 months also. Flowers are smaller but plentiful and beautiful. As you see, all my orchids are thriving well and they bloom twice or 3 times a year. These orchids are very easy to care for with a gentle care. Thank you all for watching. I hope this video inspired you to grow orchids if you haven't, or this will help you to better care for the one you already have. Please visit justgigi.com for more information such as the types of orchids, pests and problems, and more information. And also please visit Just Gigi YouTube channel for more videos. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.